This happened a week ago. I just moved to a small town to start a new job as a community college instructor. I settled into my new apartment, which used to be a schoolhouse. It had charm, and I thought it would be a great place to build my life, but that hope started to fade. On my third night, I woke up to muffled music and laughter from above. It felt late. I thought it was strange anyone would be so loud. Maybe the neighbors were just getting to know each other. I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. The next week, those sounds kept coming. One night, I was jolted awake by laughter mixed with high-pitched screams. It sent chills down my spine. I felt something creeping in, something unsettling. The lights flickered with the noise. I called my upstairs neighbor, but didn't get an answer. I wasn't sure what to think. Was this a welcome party? I could have been overthinking it. Then one evening, I decided I had to confront the noise. I grabbed my jacket and climbed the stairs. When I reached the top, I knocked on the door firmly. I waited, heart racing. The sound stopped suddenly. I thought maybe they were getting ready to open up. I knocked again. Silence. I was about to leave when I noticed something odd. The door looked ancient and worn. There were no shadows behind the frosted glass. I turned back and headed down. Unease clung to me like a wet blanket. I still heard faint whispers following me. Was it my imagination? I shook my head, trying to clear it. But those whispers kept returning after the noise stopped. Sometimes I felt cold eyes on me. Maybe I was just stressed about the new job. Days passed and I went on as if nothing was wrong, but sleep came hard. Every night the strange noises came back. I'd clutch my pillow tightly, waiting for something to happen. Each time I decided to go up there again. I knocked louder this time. I felt a thick air wrap around me. It was like something was right behind me. I glanced back, and that door was gone. Just an empty wall stared back at me. I shivered. Maybe I wasn't meant to find out. Laughter echoed again, but this time it was right next to me. I turned quickly, dread pooling in my stomach. Nothing was there, just dark hallways that felt like they were closing in. Now I can only wonder who or what was living above me. I regret moving here. Maybe the town's kindness was just a front. Why was I never invited to those midnight parties? I feel like I'm losing myself. All I want is to find peace in my new life, but now I'm haunted by what lurks above. The following day I felt restless. My mind replayed those sounds, and I couldn't focus on work. I needed to do something. Ignoring it was making it worse, so I decided to talk to the landlord. Maybe they could explain the noise. When I arrived at the office, a sense of dread washed over me. The walls were lined with outdated posters. A heavy aroma of burnt coffee lingered in the air. I forced myself to approach the receptionist, a woman with tired eyes. I have a question about the apartment above mine, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Which one? She asked. The one above. It's loud sometimes, a bit too loud. She paused, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. That floor was empty for a while, just recently rented out again. Who moved in? I asked, hoping for some details that could ease my mind. They're, unique tenants, very private. She shifted in her chair, as if uncomfortable with the topic. Not much is known about them, to be honest. Private? I repeated, feeling my throat go dry. She shrugged. You know, not everyone wants to be friendly. Just don't disturb them. Her eyes darted to the door, as if expecting someone. After that conversation, unease wrapped around me. I walked back home feeling like eyes were watching me once again. That night, I braced myself for another rough sleep. As darkness settled in, I heard the music again. It started softly, like a distant echo. As the seconds passed, it grew louder, wrapping around me with a strange familiarity. Then came the laughter. It was haunting and eerie this time, as if a dozen voices were dancing in the shadows. I lay frozen in bed. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping it was a dream. But when I opened them, the sounds were still there. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I bolted off my bed and grabbed my flashlight. The beam pierced the darkness as I crept out from my room and up the stairs. The air grew colder as I reached the landing where that door should be. But there was nothing, a blank wall where an entrance once stood. Panic set in. I whipped around to head back down when I heard it again, a combination of laughter and a distinct voice calling my name. Come in, come join us. I froze. Who was calling me? I felt drawn to that wall, almost as if it were alive. A thin line of light appeared in its cracks, flickering like it was challenging me to act. That's when I saw it. A faint silhouette was forming behind the wall, pressing against the surface. It looked like a figure, blending into the shadows, and for the first time, a chill shot through me that did not come from the cold. I stumbled back, my heart racing, and the whispering started again. Join us, join us. Now I was scared. That voice was not welcoming. It felt twisted, like some kind of lure. Backing up against the stair railing, I could only wonder what would happen if I touched that wall. Did I really want to find out?
I ran down the stairs, tumbling out into the safety of my apartment. My pulse echoed in my ears. Whatever was up there wasn't just a sound. It was a presence, a threat. The music continued to rise, now mocking me, urging me to return. I pressed my back against the door, feeling trapped. Desperation bubbled within me. I had to get to the bottom of this before it consumed me completely.
I spent the next day in a haze, the noise from above consuming my thoughts. I couldn't work, couldn't concentrate. I wanted to reach out to someone, anyone, but deep down I was terrified. What if someone else had gone through this and didn't make it out? I shook my head, trying to dispel the thoughts. I needed answers. That evening, I decided to go back to the landlord's office. I felt ridiculous going back for something I wasn't even sure about, but the sounds had crossed a line. The barrier between reality and whatever the noise was had thinned too much. As I approached the office again, I noticed a man lingering outside. He was tall and looked vaguely familiar. When I got closer, I realized he was the last tenant who lived above me, back when the apartment was still occupied. My heart raced. Why was he here? "Excuse me," I called out hesitantly. "Do you know anything about the new tenants upstairs?" He turned slowly, his eyes narrowing with caution. "I wouldn't go up there if I were you," he warned. They have their own way of living." "Way of living?" I repeated, my curiosity piqued despite his warning. He glanced around, his voice dropping. "Strange parties, music, laughter. It's not normal." He shook his head, as if reliving a memory he wished to forget. "Trust me, you don't want to get involved. Just keep your distance." I stepped back, feeling a chill. "But what do they do?" "They take people in. No one really leaves," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They get pulled in, and then they're never quite the same when they come back out." His words sent a panic chill through me. What could he possibly mean? Just as I opened my mouth to question him further, he turned and walked away without another glance. I felt a growing sense of dread as I returned to my apartment. The sounds had become a haunting theme in my head. I needed to confirm if this was just some urban legend or a real danger. That night, I steeled myself against the eerie music and laughter that had overtaken my once quiet home. Holding my flashlight tightly, I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. The voices were distant, mingling with the rhythmic pounding of the music. The laughter sounded like it was weaving a spell around me, coaxing me to join. Then came a loud crash from above, like furniture being overturned. My heart raced as adrenaline kicked in. It didn't sound like a party anymore. It was chaotic and wild. I dashed to the window to see if I could spot anything. Just as I looked out, something darted across the street, a shadowy figure that seemed to flicker in and out of reality. I blinked, and it was gone. I turned around, heart hammering, when I heard it again, the murmur of voices, but this time they were right behind me. "Come in, we need you." I whirled around, but the room was empty. Panic surged. I was trapped, pulled between fear and morbid curiosity. I had to know what was happening in that apartment above me. I had to find out who or what these new tenants were. It felt like I was standing at the edge of a dark cliff, teetering between safety and an unknown abyss. The next day, I could barely focus on anything else. The warnings from the last tenant replayed in my mind like a broken record. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the precipice of something dangerous. I decided I had to gather more information before I could confront whatever was going on upstairs. I started by checking online. A quick search revealed nothing. No recent news about disturbances or odd happenings in my building, just a few old posts about its previous tenants. Frustrated, I closed my laptop and set my coffee cup down with a thud. Then I remembered my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. She had lived in the building longer than anyone else. Maybe she'd seen something. I reached for my coat and left my apartment. Mrs. Thompson was knitting in her usual spot on the front porch. She looked up as I approached, her face etched with concern. "You look pale, dear. Everything all right?" "I've heard some strange noises coming from upstairs," I admitted. "Do you know anything about the new tenants?" She frowned deeply, setting her knitting aside. "Oh dear, I've seen them come and go. They keep to themselves mostly." Her voice dropped. "But the other night I heard laughter, strange laughter, not like anything I've ever heard, like it didn't belong here." I felt a shiver creep down my spine. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. "Well, one of them worked at the cafe in town. She just vanished after a few nights of working there. I wondered if it was connected. A few others have gone missing too." A heavy silence hung between us. "Missing?"
I asked, trying to process what she was saying. You mean they didn't just leave? She shook her head. No, they just disappeared. It's like they dropped off the face of the earth, and no one knows what happened. Just rumors about that apartment. You need to be careful. As she spoke, I felt the sensation of being watched. My instincts screamed at me to leave. I thanked Mrs. Thompson and hurried back to my apartment, my heart pounding like a drum. Once inside, I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe all of this was just a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew I had to investigate further. As dusk approached, I could hear the familiar pounding noise rising above me. The laughter echoed like it was calling out for me. I grabbed my flashlight again and made a decision. I would go upstairs tonight. I had to see for myself what was really happening. As I climbed the creaky stairs, each step felt heavier than the last. At the top, I hesitated for a moment. The laughter swelled, filling the hallway. It was bright and inviting, but also unsettling. Then I noticed something shining on the ground just outside the apartment door, a small metallic object.
It glinted under the porch light. I knelt down to pick it up. To my shock, it was a key card for the building. It felt cold in my hand, as if it had just been put down. That's when I saw it, the door to the apartment slightly ajar. The laughter had grown louder, more raucous. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob, deciding that the mystery had to be unveiled tonight. I twisted the knob and pushed the door open, ready to step into whatever awaited me inside. Inside the apartment, the laughter hit me like a wave. It echoed around the room, bright and disorienting. I stepped in cautiously, my flashlight beam cutting through the dim light. The space was larger than I expected, filled with mismatched furniture and strange decorations. But it was the people that caught my eye. A group of 4 stood in a circle, their faces flushed and eyes wide, laughter spilling from their lips. They looked alive, too alive. I felt like I had intruded on something intimate and bizarre. Their laughter didn't seem joyful. It felt almost manic. "Hey, you!" one of them shouted, noticing me. She was tall with wild hair, a bright smile that felt unnerving under the circumstances. "Join us. We were just about to start." I blinked, taking a step back. Start? Start what?" My voice cracked slightly, revealing my nerves. "Come on, don't be shy." Another member of the group stepped closer. His eyes gleamed, and I could see his teeth were unnaturally sharp. "We're just having a little fun. It's a party." I glanced around the room, trying to gauge the situation. The decorations hung like strange trophies, photos framed in odd arrangements, odd trinkets secured to the walls. I felt the walls closing in on me. Are you new here?" one of the women asked, tilting her head. The laughter died down, replaced by a tense silence. I sensed something shifting in the air. "I just moved in downstairs," I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. I heard things, strange noises." They exchanged glances, and the mood shifted like a flipped switch. "Oh, we can be loud, can't we?" the tall woman said with a grin that sent another shiver down my spine. "But it's all in good fun." I could hear the pounding noise again, louder now, echoing from somewhere deeper in the apartment. It struck a chord that felt both familiar and foreign. "What's that?" I asked, suddenly aware of the unease clinging to my skin. "Sometimes things get a little out of hand," a man murmured, his fading smile. "You should just enjoy the party. You'll miss out otherwise." I hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at me. I remembered Mrs. Thompson's warnings about the missing people. The laughter buzzed like an electric current, sending pulses of fear through me. "I don't know." Before I could finish my thought, the door slammed behind me. A cold rush of air swept through the room, extinguishing the light from my flashlight. Darkness enveloped me, the laughter morphing into something sinister. That's when I realized someone or something didn't want me to leave. The ambiance shifted dramatically. It felt heavier, charged with an energy that was uncomfortable. I felt the walls vibrating ever so slightly, as if they were alive. Panic surged inside me, and I reached for the doorknob, only to find it locked. I was trapped. My heart raced. I was held in place by fear and confusion, but the laughter resumed, sharp and discordant, as if mocking my plight. They were still circling, closing the distance between us. I could feel their eyes on me, assessing, hungry. "Why do you look so scared?" the tall woman said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "It's just a little fun. Come dance with us." She extended a hand, and I felt a pull, as if her invitation had a gravity of its own. "No thanks," I managed, backing away further into the darkness. My mind screamed for me to move, to find another way out. I glanced around, searching for an escape route, but the room seemed to warp around me, the furniture moving like shadows that danced with the flickering light. Then I heard it again, the pounding, louder and more frantic. It was coming from a door at the far end of the room. I turned my flashlight beam in that direction, revealing a door that looked like it was about to burst open. A sudden sense of urgency gripped me. "Wait!" I shouted, my voice sounding small and lost. "What's behind that door?" The man with the sharp teeth stepped forward, blocking my path as he grinned. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said, his voice smooth yet chilling. "It's not for newcomers like you." A wave of heat washed over me, and I felt the hairs at the back of my neck stand up. "I want to know," I pressed, desperate for answers. "Those noises, what or who is making them?" The others exchanged glances again, and their expressions twisted slightly. The room seemed to shrink. I could feel it, the sheer weight of their intent. "You don't want to disturb him," said the woman, now a shade more serious. "Trust us." "Trust you?" I realized how absurd it was to trust anyone in this place. This was no party, and these weren't friends. They were something else, something darker. I need to leave. At that moment, the door at the end of the room began to shake violently, the pounding intensifying, as if something inside was desperate to get out. The laughter around me faltered, replaced by tense silence. Then everything went dark. A single shriek cut through the stillness just before the darkness consumed the room completely. My skin prickled with fear as I fumbled for my flashlight, clumsily trying to turn it back on. When the light flickered back to life, I was alone in the room, the others gone, the space unnervingly quiet, except for the ongoing pounding. I felt the cold creep back into the air. The door was ajar now, swinging slightly, as though inviting me in.
It felt as if I had only two choices, to find out what waited for me there, or to stand paralyzed by fear. I took a breath, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I had to know what was happening in this apartment, even if it meant facing the unknown behind that door. So I stepped forward. I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like a warning. My flashlight illuminated a narrow hallway that was just as unsettling as the room I had left behind. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper, peeling in places, revealing dark stains hidden beneath. I gulped, stepping cautiously inside. The pounding grew louder, more insistent, seeming to echo off the walls. I followed the sound, each step weighted with dread. The flickering light barely cut through the shadows, and I felt the unsettling sensation that something was lurking just beyond my sight. At the end of the hall was another door, much sturdier than the last. The wood was thick and reinforced, and the pounding was emphasized here, like a heartbeat thudding against the surface, desperate to escape. I hesitated, wondering if I should even get closer, but my curiosity compelled me. Leaning in, I pressed my ear against the door. The noises were frantic, almost like a voice muffled by the wood. Pleas, cries, and something else. A growl? I stepped back, taking a sharp breath. This wasn't just a party gone wrong. Something was terribly wrong. Just then, a sudden noise, like the scuffle of feet, echoed from behind me. I whirled around, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness. Nothing. Just the oppressive air hanging heavy around me. My heart raced as I turned back to the door, feeling a nameless urgency. With a shaky hand, I grasped the handle, twisting it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal a dimly lit room beyond, the light flickering as if it were struggling to stay alive. What greeted me made my stomach drop. The room was filled with old, rusted metal cages stacked against each other. Each one was empty, but the sight sent a shudder down my spine. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and along one wall, a single chair sat beneath a spotlight, bolted to the floor. I stepped inside, unable to shake the feeling that I was intruding on something horrific. The pounding had stopped. Silence hung heavy in the air, until a disembodied voice suddenly cut through the quiet, echoing from the corners of the room. "Help me." I spun around, the flashlight beam sweeping the space, but there was no one there. My thoughts raced. Who was speaking? Why was I here?
I took a step forward, drawn by the plea, but then I noticed something in the corner of my eye. That's when I saw it, a faint glimmer beneath one of the cages. It was a silver bracelet, glinting in the weak light. Something about it felt familiar. Slowly, I approached, the sense of dread morphing into urgency. As I reached out to grab the bracelet, the atmosphere shifted.
The door slammed shut behind me with a resounding bang, plunging the room back into darkness. My pulse quickened. I was trapped. "Let me out!" I shouted, panic rising. The only response was laughter echoing from nowhere, taunting, a reminder of the twisted party I had endured. I pressed my back against the door, breathing heavily. Then I heard it again. The voice. This time it was clearer. "You should have never come here." My heart sank as I realized this night was far from over. Something was keenly aware of me now. I had to find a way out before whatever was hunting me closed in for the kill. The air was cold and stale, pressing in on me as I tried to gather my thoughts. I was trapped, and the shadows flickered around me like they were alive. My instinct told me to calm down, to think. I needed to find a way back to that door, but the laughter still echoed in my mind, filling me with dread. Who was laughing? "Help me," I whispered into the silence, hoping for a response that wouldn't come. My eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape route. The only source of light was that flickering bulb above the chair. It cast long shadows that twisted against the walls, distorting any sense of reality. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the empty cages. Maybe I could squeeze through the gaps and find a way out. Just as I neared the first cage, a loud crash sounded from the other side of the room. There was no mistaking it. I was not alone. I froze, scanning the darkness for movement. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a shape shifting closer to the light. It was hunched, dragging something behind it. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. "Please no," I breathed, backing away slowly, but the figure kept moving, unfazed by my presence. I wasn't sure if it could even see me. Then the laughter returned, louder this time, a twisted echo of mockery that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced back at the door, desperate for it to open, to end this nightmare. But the laughter grew, and the figure came into focus. A gaunt face twisted in a grotesque smile, hollow eyes staring straight through me. "Welcome to the party," it said, its voice cool and detached. I wanted to scream, to run, but all I could do was stand frozen in place. Suddenly, the figure raised its hands, revealing what it dragged behind, chains rattling ominously. My breath hitched. It was a body, lifeless, limp, thrown carelessly like a discarded toy. "What are you doing?" I whispered, turning my eyes back to the exit. "Get away from me!" The creature chuckled, its grin widening. "You're here to join the fun." Then it gestured to the empty cages. "We have room for one more." I felt bile rise in my throat. Mortality, death, this was no ordinary party. The room embodying a twisted version of an afterlife. I had to escape. Bolting away from the cages, I raced toward a corner, desperately searching for any crack to squeeze through. But as I turned, the figure lunged forward, its movement far too swift for something dragging chains. My mind screamed to keep moving. I turned again, my foot catching on the edge of one of the metal cages. I stumbled, hitting the floor hard. Pain shot through my arm as I tried to scramble backward. Before I could regain my footing, the shadow loomed over me, grinning wide, breath hot and rancid. "You should have never come here," it hissed, echoing the voice I had already heard. The world around me felt claustrophobic, darkness closing in. Just as hope began to fade, something caught my eye. A barely open trapdoor at the far side of the room, half hidden behind the cages. My heart raced as the figure advanced, and I sprang to my feet. This was my chance. Without thinking, I dashed toward the trapdoor, praying it would lead me to freedom. The creature lunged after me, its laughter echoing in my ears, but I couldn't let it grasp me. I hurled myself through the opening, feeling the rush of air as I fell into the unknown. That was my only escape, but I had no idea what awaited me beneath. I landed hard, my heart pounding, adrenaline flooding my system. I had escaped, at least for now. But as I looked around at the new darkness surrounding me, I realized it was far from over. I could still hear the taunting laughter from above, echoing like a ghostly reminder that something was still hunting me. The landing wasn't soft. I hit the ground with a thud that rattled through my bones. Pain shot through my ankle, and I winced, but I couldn't stop. I pushed myself up, eyes straining in the darkness. The air was thick here too, carrying a damp scent that made me shiver. I was in a narrow corridor lined with uneven brick walls. I had no clue how far it stretched or what lay ahead. I could still hear that awful laughter above me, echoing through the trapdoor like a sinister siren. I pressed on, the noise rousing an urgency in me that I couldn't ignore. To my left, I noticed a flickering light seeping from a small window high above. I couldn't reach it, but it felt like a sign. I moved toward it, limping slightly. My heart was racing, each step feeling like a countdown. I needed to find a way out. As I walked, I spotted what looked like doors lining the corridor, some cracked, others completely rotted. I hesitated, considering my options. Each door whispered secrets of the unknown, and I knew that opening one might lead to something worse than what I had just escaped. But I had to know. My fingers grazed the first doorknob, cold and rusty. I turned it slowly. It creaked open to reveal a dimly lit room. Dark shapes seemed to writhe against the walls, but when I stepped inside, they were just furniture, old chairs, a broken table, and dust-covered pictures that looked like they had seen better days. Then I heard it, a soft whimper. "Hello," I called, dread coiling in my stomach. I moved deeper into the room, scanning for the source of the noise. In the corner, half hidden behind a curtain, I saw a figure huddled on the floor. As I approached, I could see it was a girl, probably about my age. She looked up, her eyes wide and panicked. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered in a voice barely above a breath. "You have to leave before it finds you." "Who?" I asked, glancing back toward the door, feeling the weight of eyes on me. "What's going on?" But she shook her head violently. "It's too late for me. You have to go." Before I could press her for more information, a loud crash resonated from the corridor, a terrifying reminder of my pursuer's presence. The girl clenched her fists, her face pale. "You can't let it catch you." "Where do I go?" I croaked, panic rising. My hand was already seeking the door handle again. But as I reached for it, the room began to tremble. The very air felt heavy with impending dread. Shadows crept closer, swallowing the faint light, my mind racing. "Get out," she screamed, and that was enough. I flung the door open and dashed back into the corridor. The other doors stood silent, but I heard footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate. My heart hammered as I took off, searching for any escape route. I spotted another trapdoor further down, a glimmer of hope shining in the distance. I bolted towards it, the laughter growing louder, shaping into words that cut like ice. "Join us! Join us!" I skidded to the trapdoor, flinging it open, but before I could leap down, a soft whisper tickled my ear. "It knows where you are." I turned, but the girl was gone. Without any more hesitation, I jumped through the opening, plunging into darkness, praying that whatever awaited me below wasn't as horrifying as what I'd just left behind. When I landed beneath, I found myself in a completely different place. The laughter was gone, replaced by an eerie silence, and that's when I saw it, a single flicker of light glowing in the distance, beckoning me closer. I took a tentative step forward, the ground beneath me uneven, but the light was impossible to ignore. It pulsed gently, urging me closer. My heart raced with each step, the silence surrounding me heavy and oppressive. What had I jumped into? Was this some twisted version of the party upstairs, or a refuge from the chaos? As I approached, the dim light began to take form, a lantern suspended from an old rusted hook in the ceiling. The glow illuminated a wider space, revealing walls lined with ancient faded photographs. Each image seemed to capture moments of joy, but they felt strange, almost hollow. The distant echoes of laughter had quieted, replaced by a heavy stillness that threatened to consume me. In the center of the room stood a table, adorned with trinkets, necklaces, bracelets, and assorted objects, all meticulously placed as if awaiting something. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping into a shrine of lost souls.
Clutching the silver bracelet I had found earlier, I felt a strange sense of connection to this place, as if the objects harbored memories I wasn't meant to unveil. I scanned the floor, where remnants of dust came together into central piles, disturbed recently. Someone had been here, and I could feel their lingering presence like a weight on my shoulders. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing against the brick walls. The air around me held its breath, waiting for a response that wouldn't come. Suddenly, the lantern flickered violently, making the shadows dance across the room. I could sense a shift, and chills spread across my skin. If this was a refuge, then the danger from above had followed me here. My mind raced through every warning I had received, each one more alarming than the last. And then I heard it again, The laughter, echoing from the trapdoor I had just jumped through. It seemed to come alive, twisting through the space like a living thing, beckoning me back. Join us, it whispered, layered with distorted voices. Panic surged through me as I fought against the pull of those enticing words. I couldn't return. I turned to the door on the opposite side that led deeper into the unknown. That feeling of urgency hit me again. I had a choice. Stay and confront whatever presence lingered here, or move towards whatever lay beyond those walls. With little time to think, I chose the latter. As I crossed the threshold into another dim corridor, I felt a gust of wind whip past, chilling me to the bone. It rustled the photographs lining the walls, as if inviting me to look closer. But the gut instinct to move drove me forward. How far could I run? I had no idea if whatever haunted me would come after me here, but there came a point when survival was more pressing than understanding. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly ahead. Just when I thought I had found a glimmer of light trickling in from below, a chance of escape, the ground beneath me quaked. The walls vibrated again, and suddenly I felt it, the presence tightening around me like a noose. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching me with an insatiable hunger. Then I saw it, an opening to my left, a forgotten door, seemingly untouched by the chaos. I pounded towards it, heart racing, desperate to put distance between myself and the laughter echoing in my mind. I thrust the door open, plunging into another room. In an instant, I was caught in the middle of chaos. Furniture was overturned, paper scattered across the floor, and a flickering bulb hung precariously from the ceiling. Shapes darted in the shadows, but they weren't human. Something was here, something tangible and dark that made my skin crawl. Suddenly, out of the darkness, a figure loomed, moving quickly toward me. "You shouldn't have come," it hissed, just as an unseen force surged around me, pulling me back into the unknown. All I could think was to escape.
I couldn't let it pull me into the darkness. With every ounce of strength, I surged forward, pushing past whatever supernatural barrier loomed, and veered back into the hallway. My breath quickened, my heart hammering against my ribs. I raced toward the glimmering light that had drawn me here. In that moment, I couldn't care if it was hope or treachery. I had to reach it, had to find safety. As I burst through a final door, I found myself outside, inhaling the crisp night air. The sky above was a smattering of stars, twinkling despite the oppressive darkness that still clung to my skin. I stumbled forward, my legs quaking beneath me. Behind me, I could hear the laughter crescendo, echoing through the walls of the building where I had just escaped from, a haunting melody that promised no rest. I looked back one last time, my heart heavy with questions. What had truly inhabited that space? Had the laughter been real? Were the missing souls trapped somewhere within those walls? I walked away from my old apartment that night, the sounds ushering me ever forward into the unknown. I wasn't sure what I'd find ahead, but the weight of what I left behind hung heavy in the air. I still think about it sometimes. The laughter, the joy, the horror, and the darkness that bonded them. Maybe some mysteries were better left unanswered.